Only after being a complete doormat of a groom do you truly understand that a runaway bride isn't just humiliating for you. It makes your entire family unable to hold their heads high in front of friends and relatives. My situation was even worse. My wedding was torpedoed by a single phone call about her repaying a debt of gratitude. The very next day, she showed up with the so-called benefactor's younger brother, demanding I understand why she had to turn my family into a laughingstock to repay this debt, and even had the audacity to suggest the kid work in my company and live in my house, arguing that since I was well off, I should just bear it. It wasn't until I pulled the dashcam footage and discovered he wasn't a benefactor, but a total menace who would later smash equipment at my office and stab her mother that I finally understood. This whole saga, which looked to everyone like a tragic story of repaying a debt, was a complete farce from start to finish. She had used me as a stepping stone, held up a dead man as her one true first love, and used a punk as his stand-in. For years ago, I told her, if you ever make an unforgivable mistake, I'll give you one last shred of dignity before I make you disappear from my life completely. In the end, I kept that promise. On my wedding day, my fiancée rushed off to take care of her so-called benefactor, his old college buddies, and his orphaned younger brother. She left me standing there alone, a complete joke. The wedding was instantly called off. My parents were pale with fury, and the air was thick with the sneers and whispers of our guests. She had the nerve to tell me, with a straight face, we can always get married another time, but this is a debt of gratitude I have to repay today, no matter what. After hearing that, I just gave her a thumbs up. Right, you're so kind, so noble. The whole world should take notes. I think we should just call this whole marriage off, I said. After all, you seem perfectly willing to raise someone else's kid when you have no blood ties to. But I'm not. There at the wedding venue, my fiancée suddenly ripped off her wedding dress, changed into street clothes, and just strolled out the front door. I was completely frozen. The wedding march was still playing through the hall, but the MC's voice had trailed off into silence. The MC, a young woman in her early 20s and new to the business, had clearly never witnessed anything like it. It was like a scene straight out of a soap opera. She stood there, stunned and clueless about what to do next. My parents were frozen right there with her. The guests immediately erupted into whispers. My father, stumbling slightly, rushed onto the stage and grabbed my arm. James, what's happening? Everything was fine a minute ago. Why did the bride just leave? You need to call Ava right now and find out what on earth is going on. This is your wedding day. Everyone is waiting. This isn't the time for games. My father's frantic voice snapped me out of my trance. I met his worried eyes, and it hit me right in my phone. My fiancée's bizarre behavior had started the moment she took that call. Back in the dressing room, I couldn't stop wondering who had called. Who could possibly be so important that she would abandon our wedding and leave me to be publicly humiliated at the altar? Ava had been my girlfriend for 3 years, ever since she was an underclassman at Northwestern with me. Back then, I was the head of the campus media center, which meant I was in charge of pretty much every hosting gig, big or small, on and off campus. We first crossed paths during my junior year when we co-hosted the 4th of July celebration. Ava was gorgeous, with a sweet voice that made her a natural standout on the hosting team. I was the one who pursued her. My family always taught me that if you see something or someone you want, you go after it with everything you've got. Love was no exception. Because of Ava, my campus reputation did a complete 180. I went from being the cool, aloof guy to the resident simp. I was at every single event she participated in, running errands, fetching things, and generally just waiting on her hand and foot. Luckily, the effort paid off. After 6 months, I finally won her over. The day I asked her out, her eyes welled up with tears, and she told me she was just too soft-hearted, that she could never say no to someone so sincere. Looking back, being too soft-hearted could be a real curse. The day after she silently fled our wedding, Ava showed up at my front door, a young man in tow. I assumed she was there to officially call things off, to finally give me a straight answer. But the first words out of her mouth were a complaint directed at me. James, this is my Minner's younger brother, Ethan. He was in a car accident yesterday. His brother was the only family he had. I couldn't just leave him there all alone. We can get married anytime, but if something had happened to him, how could I ever face his brother in the afterlife? You're a good guy, James. You have to understand, right? This so-called mentor, Caleb Hayes, was a senior from Ava's college years, the benefactor she was always talking about. I never met the guy, but I'd heard the stories. He was a stand-up guy, loyal, always putting others before himself. Ava had told me countless times how much she owed him. He knew her family was struggling, so he helped her apply for scholarships, got her paid hosting gigs, and constantly encouraged her. He single-handedly transformed a shy, insecure girl into a poised and confident public speaker. Hearing all that, I could understand why she felt so indebted to him. But at this particular moment, standing in the wreckage of our wedding, I couldn't accept her explanation. Just because I'm a good guy, I'm supposed to be okay with her vanishing on our wedding day without a single word? To me, good guy has never been a compliment. It's just another word for pushover or sucker. The guy Ava brought with her, Ethan, was in his early 20s, with sharp features that I'm sure most girls would find attractive. He just stared at me, not a hint of remorse on his face for having wrecked my wedding. And when he spoke, it sounded less like an apology and more like a boast. "James, I'm the one who called Ava yesterday," he said. "I was in a pretty bad car accident. I don't have any family here in Chicago, so I panicked and called her. My head was all over the place. I completely forgot she was getting married. I fought to keep my anger in check as I sized him up, then asked slowly, 'A pretty bad car accident, you say? You're walking just fine, and I don't see a scratch on you. So what exactly was the issue? No hospital visit, no checkup?' My tone was level, but Ava's reaction was anything but. She immediately stepped in front of Ethan, shielding him. 'James, I'm trying to explain. Can you please be reasonable? Is it right to interrogate a kid like this? I already told you, we can have another wedding. Can you please stop fixating on such a minor issue?' Her words made me laugh, a cold, bitter sound. A minor issue? Ava, you were the bride who vanished in the middle of the ceremony. A room full of our friends and family came to celebrate, and you turned them all into witnesses to a farce. Forget about my humiliation for a second. What about my parents? Now, everyone we know is whispering behind our backs. The venue, the decorations, that cost over $15,000. The catering was 800 table, and none of it was enough to keep you, the bride, from walking out. The whole city is buzzing with rumors that our marriage is a sham. And you think you can fix it all by just saying, 'Let's do it again'? Is your family going to foot the bill next time?" In all the years we'd been together, I'd almost never raised my voice at her or said a single harsh word. But this time, I couldn't contain my rage. Ava was raised by a single mother who was chronically ill, so ill she couldn't even make it to the wedding. Every penny Ava earned went toward her mother's medical bills. She was in a constant state of financial anxiety. I knew all this, and because I cared about her, I never let her pay for a thing. My family, the Andersons, were comfortable. I have a stable career, and my parents are healthy. Before the wedding, I explained Ava's situation to my parents. We all agreed that my family would cover every single expense. Her family wouldn't have to contribute a dime, and we didn't expect any kind of dowry. I'm an only child, and my parents wanted the best for me and for my future wife. They bought us a condo, a new car, and even gave us a $25,000 cash gift. Also, I could marry Ava in style and give her a good start. But that fiasco at the wedding utterly humiliated my parents. My dad was so upset, he started having chest pains and had to take his heart medication just to get through the day. He's a reasonable man, so he didn't place blame. He just told me to find out what happened. He said Ava needed to explain herself to our family and friends, to clear up any misunderstandings before they could tarnish our marriage. I never expected Ava's reaction to be so hostile. The second I mentioned money, her entire demeanor changed. The look in her eyes was one of pure, undisguised contempt. Her words were like daggers. "James, your family has a little money, don't they? Is that why you have to bring it up every chance you get? All you care about is your parents' reputation. What about my mother? Haven't I told you about Caleb Hayes? I wouldn't be the person I am today if it weren't for him. How could I not repay that debt? How could I just stand by and do nothing when his brother was in trouble? Ethan has had a hard life. Don't you have any compassion at all? At that point, I had reached my breaking point. I glanced at the smug kid standing next to her and gave Ava a sarcastic thumbs up. You're right. You're so kind. So noble. A real role model for us all. As for the wedding, I think we're done here. If you want to spend your life raising some stranger's kid, that's your choice. But count me out. The conversation had completely imploded. Ava shot back, "You'll regret this," then grabbed Ethan's arm and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. My buddy Mike, who lives overseas, somehow heard about my wedding disaster and called to check in. In the middle of our conversation, he dropped an absolute bombshell. "Dude, I'm going to be honest, I never liked her," he said. "I told you before she was just using you as a stepping stone, but you wouldn't listen. Well, look what happened. I was right, wasn't I? If she was so dead set on repaying this debt, why did she agree to marry you in the first place? And that benefactor she's always talking about, Caleb, he wasn't just her mentor, man. He was her first love. You know how dangerous the one that got away can be, especially when they die young. And now, this kid, Ethan, shows up, a spitting image of his brother? It's like something out of a cheesy romantic tragedy. Look, I know you don't want to hear it, but even if you two go through with another wedding, I guarantee you this will happen again." His words hit me like a bucket of ice water. It all made sense now. The way Ava had shielded Ethan, like a mother hen protecting her chick. In her mind, he was just a stand-in for her lost love. I'd heard people mention Caleb before, but always in the context of being Ava's senior who co-hosted events with her. He helped her find gigs, opened doors for her. Ava never hesitated to bring him up, always talking about what a tragedy his early death was, how much she owed him, how grateful she was for his guidance. I just never realized there was this entire hidden chapter to their story. A chill ran down my spine. I opened my phone and went to her Facebook page. She had just posted a photo of herself with Ethan, and the caption felt like it was aimed directly at me. My mother always taught me to repay the kindness shown to me. I've always told myself I need to find a partner who understands gratitude. If I can't find someone like that, I'd rather stay single forever. I read it and just felt the bitter irony. Even now, she was still hiding behind this flimsy excuse of repaying a debt. Fine. If she wanted to repay it so badly, I'd let her. She could take all the time in the world. I reached out to one of my old professors, Professor Davis, to ask about Caleb Hayes' family. What he told me matched Ava's story. They were definitely struggling financially. But the poor, helpless, younger brother she described was anything but innocent. The professor's words set off alarm bells. "James, why are you asking about Ethan?" he said. "Take my advice, stay far away from that family's drama. Caleb was a great kid, but his brother is a complete menace. He dropped out of high school, and now he just runs with a rough crowd from the South Side. If he's not getting into fights, he's gambling away money he doesn't have or wasting it on prostitutes. The only time he ever reliably showed his face was when he needed to hit his brother up for cash. I hear he's got loan sharks after him now, and he was just in some kind of car accident a little while ago. If you cross paths with that kid, James, you run the other way. Don't let him drag you into his mess." Loan sharks? A quel accident? My chest tightened. It all sounded disturbingly familiar. And the most ironic part, the car Ava had driven off in on our wedding day was mine. Back at my condo, I headed straight for the parking garage. I was going to pull the dashcam footage and see for myself what this serious car accident was all about. But as I rounded a corner, I ran straight into Ava and Ethan, their arms full of grocery bags, heading for the elevator. I stood there for a second, my mind completely blank. Ava, however, just lifted her chin and said proudly, "James, Ethan is so thoughtful. He knows he caused a misunderstanding between us, so he went out and bought all of this to make it up to us. I've had some time to think, and I know I was in the wrong on our wedding day. Please don't be angry anymore. Let's just have dinner and talk things through." When I didn't answer, she grabbed my arm and pouted, trying to be cute. "Honey, you know what I'm like. I just have a short fuse. I don't even remember half the things I said. We've been together for 3 years. We can't let one little thing derail our wedding, can we?" There was a reason for what happened, and both Ethan and I are truly sorry. You're a bigger person than this, James. Please don't hold a grudge. We're supposed to be spending the rest of our lives together. I was about to fire back with a sarcastic remark, but out of the corner of my eye, I caught a flicker of impatience on Ethan's face. I changed my tune instantly. Let's just go upstairs. Ethan immediately switched gears, putting on a show of being helpful. He rushed over to take the bags from my hands. Bro, you and Ava go on up and relax. I got this. Ava patted him on the head, a smug look on her face. See? I told you he was a good kid. So well-behaved. If they weren't standing right in front of me, I think I would have thrown up. I watched them walk ahead of me, him in a baggy hoodie and ripped jeans, and a cold smirk spread across my face. Tattoos, piercings, reeking of stale cigarettes, and cheap booze. This was her idea of a good kid. If he ever turned on her, I just hoped she wouldn't come crying to me. I didn't have the stomach for a single bite of dinner that night. From the moment they started prepping the food to when they cleaned the last dish, I didn't say a word or lift a finger to help. The reason was simple. Right before we walked in, Ethan had been bragging about how he'd seen it all and could handle any kind of work. I'd casually replied, "Perfect. Then you're on cooking and dish duty tonight." I pointed him toward the kitchen. He couldn't just expect a free meal. Ava shot me a dirty look. "James, are you serious? You don't invite a guest over and then make them cook. He's just a kid. What's he supposed to do?" Ethan's face went rigid, but when he heard Ava defending him, he quickly composed himself and turned to comfort her. "It's okay, Ava. This is nothing. Ever since my brother died, it's been tough. I've had to do everything myself, cooking, cleaning. Maybe James just can't cook and wants to try my skills. Don't worry, I'm great at this stuff." I ignored him and shot a cold glance at Ava. Her expression faltered. Ethan clearly didn't know the first thing about me, or how I'd earned my reputation as a doormat back in college. The more I cared for Ava, the more I ignored the burden she brought with her, and the more I pretended not to notice her coldness and indifference. After we moved in together, I did every single chore. I cooked and did the dishes every single day while she lounged on the sofa, either shopping online or binging shows, waiting for me to bring her a plate. Ethan thought his little performance would get a rise out of me, but he couldn't have been more wrong. When neither Ava nor I took the bait, he awkwardly shuffled off into the kitchen. I had planned on using this time to have a real talk with Ava, but before I could even start, she was on her feet. She couldn't stand seeing Ethan working in the kitchen alone, so she went to help him. I watched her bustling around in the kitchen, and for a moment I was mesmerized. I had never seen her be so attentive, so considerate. Not with me. I could have a 102-degree fever and still be trying to make her something to eat, and all I'd get was a half-hearted thanks, honey, from the bed, like she was just checking a box. And yet here she was, the woman who couldn't even be bothered to slice an apple, volunteering to cook a complicated dish. In that instant, something clicked. I knew, with absolute certainty, that Ava and I were finished. Looking back on our 3 years together, was it ever really about love? No. She stayed for the money, for the convenience, for the way I let her get away with anything. She stayed for everything except love. We picked at our food in a strained silence that lingered long after the meal was over. The clock on the wall read 9 p.m. Ethan finished the dishes and, instead of leaving, sat down next to Ava and started peeling an orange for her. Ava kept glancing at me nervously before she finally seemed to work up the courage to speak. "James, look at Ethan. He's so well-behaved. Doesn't he remind you a little of your cousin Leo?" Leo, my cousin, had never liked Ava. He was so pissed when he heard we were getting married that he boycotted the wedding. I was surprised she brought him up, but her motive became clear soon enough. "Didn't you say the other day that you're looking for a new assistant at your company? Ethan is smart and reliable. Why don't you give him the job? And he's in a bit of a tough spot right now, with nowhere to live. Our guest room is empty, so he could just stay here. You two could even commute together. It would be so convenient." I was so stunned by her proposal that I was speechless. I sat in silence for a long moment, just trying to process what she'd said. When I finally found my voice, it was ice cold. "Did you even read the job description I posted? It requires a bachelor's degree, a minimum of 2 years of relevant experience, and proficiency in Excel and PowerPoint. Which one of those qualifications does he have? If he meets the criteria, he can submit a resume, and come in for an interview tomorrow like everyone else. Don't come to me with this just give him a job nonsense. I'm responsible for my company. Even if he were qualified, he'd still have to go through the standard 3-round interview process with HR. If he passes, then we can talk. My words left both Ava and Ethan speechless. Ethan forced a smile and tugged on Ava's sleeve. Ava, if James doesn't want to, it's fine. Don't pressure him for my sake. My brother always said it's not where you come from that matters. I know I don't have a degree, but I'm a hard worker, no matter what I do. He finished his little speech by pretending to wipe away a tear. Seeing his performance, Ava's expression soured, and she turned her fury on me. James, I can't believe I never saw it before. You're such a snob. All you ever talk about is degrees and money. Have you ever once stopped to consider someone else's feelings? So what if Ethan doesn't have a degree? He's honest, and he's not afraid of hard work. Why can't he be your assistant? Because of some stupid corporate policy? You're just looking down on him. I let out a cold laugh, not backing down an inch. So degrees and money don't matter? Then tell me, how did you get the job you have now? Try getting into your company with no degree, no connections, and no resources. My question shut her up completely. She had nothing to say, and at that point, my patience was gone. I was done arguing. I gave her an ultimatum. Take your benefactor's brother and leave. Go repay your precious debt somewhere else, but leave me out of it. The guest room is for actual guests. I don't know him, and he's not family. And let me be perfectly clear. We are over. This isn't a tantrum, and I'm not joking. The car is mine. The condo is mine. You can pack your things and go, but leave the car keys on the counter. I'm changing the locks tonight. Ava, if we never see each other again, it'll be too soon. My words seemed to finally break through to her. She looked stunned, as if she was only just now realizing that I was serious about calling off the wedding. But she was too proud to back down in front of Ethan. She just grabbed his arm and stormed out, slamming the door. Not even 30 minutes later, a notification popped up on my phone. A charge of $299 on my credit card, the one ending in XXXX. At the exact same moment, my rewards account for the Four Seasons lit up with 299 new points. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She acts so high and mighty, but has no problem spending my money. After everything that had happened, she still had the audacity to use my card to book a luxury hotel room for that kid. Absolutely unbelievable. I immediately called and canceled her supplementary card, then had the bank freeze the main credit card I'd given her. Once I was done, I called my parents and told them everything from start to finish. My dad was furious, but then he realized that while we'd had the ceremony, we hadn't actually signed a marriage license. He let out a huge sigh of relief, grateful that we hadn't made it legally binding. During the call, my parents also told me that Ava's mother had been pressuring them behind the scenes to transfer that $25,000 wedding gift ahead of time. Thankfully, my mom had insisted they wait until after the license was signed and everything was official. Now that the wedding was off, at least that money was still safe in their account. I thought that would be the end of the drama. But when I walked into my office building on Monday morning, I almost had to laugh at the sight that greeted me. Ava was standing in the lobby, her eyes red and puffy, looking completely exhausted. And next to her stood her mother, the same mother who was supposedly so gravely ill she'd been bedridden for years and couldn't even walk. The second I saw her, it all clicked. I finally understood just how badly I'd been played all these years. A woman capable of organizing a protest in my office lobby was clearly not on death's door. To prevent any fake slip and falls or other staged accidents, I immediately called down our corporate communications team. I told them to bring every camera we had, gimbals and all, and to start recording the entire group from every possible angle. Within minutes, Ava's mother and her hired crowd were completely surrounded by cameras, standing there looking stunned. I gave them a little wave, a gesture to continue their performance. Don't stop now, I called out. If you're going to make a scene, make it a big one. We need good footage for the press. Speak up, don't be shy. This crew had clearly never dealt with the media before. Faced with a wall of cameras, they started to panic. The people around Ava's mom started tugging at her sleeve. Mrs. Miller, you said we were just here to hold a few signs and show support. One of them whispered loudly. You didn't say anything about all these cameras. I didn't tell my husband I was coming here. If this ends up on the news, I'll be so embarrassed. Aren't you his mother-in-law? Can't you get him to stop? Tell him to turn off the cameras. They're making me nervous. And another thing, a man added, for a scene this big, you're going to have to pay us more. An extra $50 a head should do it. Your future son-in-law here clearly isn't hurting for cash. Hearing the grumbling from her rented mob, Ava started to panic too. She rushed over to her mother. Mom, I told you, James doesn't respond to pressure like this. You're not going to scare him. This is pointless. You'd be better off playing up the sick act while I try to sweet-talk him. That would work way better than this. I watched the mother-daughter duo, saying nothing, just enjoying the show. Just as the scene reached a stalemate, Ethan came barreling out of nowhere, shattering the tense silence. I don't know if he'd been watching too many action movies, but he seemed to think this was his cue for a heroic entrance. He sprinted over to Ava and her mother, snatched the nearest camera from one of my employees, and smashed it on the marble floor. The crash echoed through the lobby, making everyone jump. The smarter members of the crowd realized things had just gotten serious and began to quietly slip away. A flicker of gratitude crossed Ava's face, but it was instantly extinguished by my next words, delivered in a dead calm voice. Nice work, Ethan, I said. I was looking for a reason to call the cops. Just causing a disturbance isn't always enough, but destruction of property? That's a different story. The threshold for felony charges is about $1,000. And that camera you just smashed? That's a $3,000 piece of equipment. So who's paying for it? You'd better figure out fast. The moment the words left my mouth, the rest of the hired crowd scattered like frightened birds, terrified they might get stuck with the bill. Ava's mother's face went white, but she tried to hold her ground. Don't you try to scare me with your money. You were with my daughter for 3 years. You wasted her youth, and now you're going to throw her away just because she tried to do a good deed. I know you work in media, but let me tell you, there's still such a thing as justice in this world. If you don't give us the wedding money you promised, I'll be back here every single day, and I'll make sure everyone in this city knows what kind of monster you are. Her little speech actually made me laugh. I shrugged. Ma'am, this isn't a courtroom. But fine, I'll play along. Go ahead. Expose me. I'm curious how you plan to prove I'm the bad guy here. Are you going to start with the part where your daughter publicly abandoned me at the altar? Or should we jump straight to the part where she cheated on me? Don't look at me like that. The dash cam in my car recorded everything. I can play it for you right now if you'd like. The moment I said the word dash cam, the color drained from Ava's face, while Ethan's flushed bright red. Ava finally snapped. James, she screamed. I was with you for 3 years. I can't believe you could be so disgusting. If you dare release that footage, I swear, I will make you pay. That night, Ethan and I had a little too much to drink. We lost control for a minute. That recording doesn't prove anything. You're the one who wasted 3 years of my life, and now you think you can just walk away? Where's your sense of responsibility? You call yourself a leader? You're pathetic. Whatever lingering affection I might have had for her was long gone. Her hysterics now meant nothing to me. Watching her completely unravel, all I felt was a distant, sad kind of pity. I looked at her, my voice flat. Ava, you graduated from top university. You should know a little something about the law. So let me be blunt. Your mother brought a mob here to disrupt my business. That's called disturbing the peace. And your dear brother here just publicly destroyed company property. That's called vandalism. So instead of yelling at me, why don't you think about the question I asked? Who is going to pay for the $3,000 camera? Since you care so much about honoring your mentor's memory, wouldn't it be fitting for you to take care of his brother's debt? As expected, Ethan didn't miss a beat. He immediately slipped back into character. He grabbed Ava's arm, his voice pleading. Ava, I only did it to protect you. You know, I don't have that kind of money. I can't pay for it. Think about Caleb. Think about everything he did for you. If he were watching from heaven and saw me suffering like this because of you, it would kill him all over again. Before Ava could even respond, her mother erupted. She yanked Ava away from him and slapped Ethan hard across the face. The sharp crack echoed through the lobby. Then came the screaming. You little punk, she shrieked. If it wasn't for you, my daughter wouldn't be in this mess. You're a broke, uneducated nobody. What gives you the right to even be near my daughter? Now, the wedding gift is gone, and you expect her to pay your debts? Who do you think you are? Look at yourself. A toad, try to catch a swan. If my daughter ever gets seriously involved with a piece of trash like you, I'll skin her alive. I saw the look in Ethan's eyes change in a flash, like a switch had been flipped. I quickly motioned for my colleagues to back away. The police, who had just arrived, also sensed the shift and started to move in. But they were a second too late. Ethan pulled a knife from his jacket and lunged, plunging it into the old woman's chest. He was screaming as he did it. You old bitch. Who the hell do you think you are, talking to me like that? You think I'm a pushover? You have no idea what your daughter really is, do you? She has a fiancé, but she was sleeping with me behind his back. You think she's some kind of saint repaying a debt? She's only with me because I look like my dead brother. She's a slut. I'm drowning in debt anyway. I can't pay for your stupid camera, so we might as well all die. I'll go join my brother. Ava let out a terrified scream and squeezed her eyes shut, unable to watch. The police swarmed him, tackling him to the ground and getting him under control. Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher and wheeled Ava's mother toward the ambulance. Ava just stood there, hollowed out, shaking uncontrollably. As an officer gently guided her away, she instinctively reached out, her hands searching for something to hold on to. It was a familiar gesture, the same way she used to reach for my hand in the middle of the night when she was scared. Her hand reached toward me. James, I'm so scared, she whimpered. Can you help me? I didn't know he was like this. I know I was wrong. I'm so scared. I just looked at her and gave a small, contemptuous smile. Scared now? It's too late, Ava. I'm scared too. But the person I'm scared of is you. You can't witness a violent assault like that and not be affected. But knowing what I knew about Ethan, I wasn't entirely surprised. I just never imagined it would escalate so dramatically. The irony was that Mrs. Miller, who had spent years faking a debilitating illness, was now genuinely incapacitated. He had stabbed her 3 times in the abdomen, all critical wounds. She was now in a persistent vegetative state, kept alive by machines. Ava's salary, a little over $4,000 a month, wasn't nearly enough to cover her mother's medical bills. I heard later that she quit her job at my friend's company. I wasn't surprised. For someone like Ava, appearances are everything. The stabbing was big news, and the local stations did a sloppy job blurring her face. Now, she can't go anywhere without people whispering behind her back. And on top of that, the company she'd worked for belonged to one of my best friends. She knew there was no chance I would ever forgive her, so she stayed out of my life. She did send a letter through a mutual friend, supposedly a heartfelt apology. I didn't even glance at it. I just told our friend to throw it away, adding an apology letter. I have no interest in reading anything from her. I know that I genuinely loved Ava once. I gave her all the patience and understanding I had. Throughout this whole melodrama disguised as repaying a debt, I gave her chance after chance. I warned her from the start that you have to be sure someone is worthy of that kind of loyalty. But she never listened. Instead, she just accused me of being small-minded and unkind. Am I really an unkind person? If I were, this all would have blown up the night I found that dashcam footage. I could have played it for everyone at the wedding and exposed her right then and there. But back then, I still remembered the girl I had once loved. The best I could do was grant her one last shred of dignity while cutting her out of my life for good. I remember, during our first year together, Ava asked me a question. If I ever made a huge, unforgivable mistake, what would you do? My answer then was, I would preserve one last good memory of you, and then I would make you disappear from my world forever. And that's exactly what I did. So I'm not the one with any regrets. It was 4 years before I saw Ava again. My wife and I were at the mall when a flustered sales clerk, rushing, bumped right into me. I instinctively reached out to steady her. Are you okay? I asked. The haggard-looking woman lifted her head, her eyes wide with panic and confusion. My wife, Sarah, who had her arm linked through mine, looked from the woman to me. She leaned in and whispered, What is it, honey? Do you know her? The woman stumbled backward and hurried away. I just smiled, squeezing my wife's hand a little tighter. No, I said softly. I don't think so. She must have me confused with someone else. Come on, let's go get something for the baby. The core of this story isn't just about betrayal. It's an exploration of the destruction that follows when kindness loses its boundaries and is held hostage by a so-called debt of gratitude. The protagonist's growth is where the story's true value lies. He evolves from someone who gives blindly for love into a clear-headed and decisive adult. His experience teaches us that true love requires mutual respect, not tolerance without principles. When your kindness is used as a weapon against you, cutting your losses is the greatest act of self-respect. This isn't a lesson in becoming cold, but a prompt to consider what constitutes worthwhile kindness. True kindness requires wisdom and a sharp edge, the ability to see the truth, and the courage to draw firm boundaries to protect yourself from being consumed by someone else's drama. That final "I don't know her" isn't an act of revenge. It's a sign of complete release. It signifies the final removal of the wrong person from his life, making space for the right one. May we all learn to love deeply without being debased, and to be kind while still having a backbone. True strength is knowing when to walk away, understanding that sometimes to save yourself is the highest priority.